You are now listening to Extra Time with Dan and Chris from the Sportsheads. Gotta love a little extra time.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Extra Time with your boys Dan and Chris from the Sportsheads. How you doing, Chris?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. This is a beautiful season. Feeling excited, man. Sports is really taking a lot of the pressure off of this quarantining, man.
See, I'm not going to lie, Chris. I thought you would have started off the gate, racing, having a go at me, because obviously my picks have absolutely been a failure. Obviously, Portland lost to the Lakers.
We haven't had a show in a while, so we got to we got to be greet each other, and then I'm gonna Ross you.
Nah. Just go ahead. Just go absolutely ahead. Have a go at me, and just lay in the smackdown. Because for me personally, I have failed in terms of my picks. To be fair, I did predict Denver a win, but I thought they would win straight sets, and they haven't, or a sweep, they haven't. And my pick of the Rockets are going to the last. Oof.
Going to the last game. The Rockets pick, because you picked the Rockets. The reason I'm gonna go with the Rockets, but you picked the Rockets to win the chip. Like, you took them to go all the way to the finals, and I'm like, they're struggling with OKC. It is the best theater ever. I'm a Chris Paul fan. If it's a player that I like other than the organization, I'm a big Chris Paul fan. And what Chris Paul is doing as a leader of this OKC team is historic, man. This man got traded, pretty much kicked out of Houston, bro, for what they felt was a better player from OKC and Russell Westbrook. And Chris Paul is just coming through. I am rooting for this dude tonight. I hope they win. It will be the sweetest thing. I told you I picked OKC to win this series. When CP3 came through with those two clutch three-pointers, I was like, yes! I was like, yeah! I was feeling real good. I was like, Dan's going to feel this pressure. Dan's feeling the pressure right now. And it's going to be a good Game 7. And I think CP3 and those boys, they built for it. He kind of called out James Harden in the interview, if you listen to it on TNT, when he was like, some of us are built for the moment and some of us shy away from it. I'm going to take that as a shot to your boy, James Harden. What do you say?
No, I'm not going to lie to you. Can I? Look, James Harden has not been great in the playoffs. That's been a fact. What I felt, the reason why I just felt, I put the Rockets in, maybe going to the finals, was because of the extra rest. Because I felt that going into the bubble, Westbrook and Harden will probably view this situation like the start of a regular season and just hit off the brakes and just, go full throttle at it. And they started off well, and then it's just, not been the same. So that's why I kind of gave it to Houston. Personally, I look at this whole situation. Look, Thunders can take. I think if the Thunders win tonight, I can't see them beating the Lakers. To be fair, I can't even see Houston beating the Lakers. So it's just one of those situations where my pick completely out the window. No one listens to me when it comes to picks. You'll lose your money. I'm not a betting guru. Let's see if I can maybe do it for the NFL. But NBA, I have sucked.
Hey man, I give you props for even for attempting. You had good points when you were making these picks. But there was one thing I had to say. I had to ask you. When you went into this pick with Houston, I think you kind of was disrespecting OKC because you knew Harden was going to be out for a couple of games. Westbrook was going to be out for a couple of games.
Westbrook's going to be out. I just, like I said, man for man, talent-wise, I just didn't think the Thunder matched up well with Houston. And for some reason, I've been proven wrong. I mean, they have, I think, similar records in the regular season. So I guess that's, me being overestimating that sort of rest period, because obviously you see it like, Harden does flag in the postseason most of the time. So I just felt 3 months off, body rejuvenated, go at it, and it just hasn't been the same. Like he said, like Chris Paul said, people do shrink at the moments, and I just don't think Harden is a great a great postseason player. I think for Harden, he's going to probably need to get a third piece, someone that could be a clutch player in the moments. But also, I think D'Antoni's system of always living by the three, die by the three needs to go. You need to make adjustments, particularly in the playoffs. You can't just keep going three and you go for what, maybe 8 for 16, and then in the first half, and then go 0 for 9. That doesn't work. So it needs to change up, and you need to be able to look at the situation and and adjust. You got to do a Bill Belichick, be the Bill Belichick of the NBA, and make those adjustments at halftime or in the third quarter. And I'm not sure. My hope on D'Antoni isn't great. We're also looking at Houston at the moment right now. If they don't do well, then it's going to be a situation of, boy, they've got too many players. They've literally got too many players on too many big players on big contracts, and so I don't understand I don't know how they're going to sort of rejig that team, if that's going to make sense.
One indictment definitely is for the Houston Rockets, I believe, is D'Antoni's system. Not only the three live by the three, die by the three situation. To me, it's how do you do that? And you want to live with a 6'5" lineup and under. Like, you want to live in some AAU basketball team where you have no big guys, no 7-footers on the squad. PJ Tucker's your biggest guy, and you expect to win in this league of tall players and where offensive rebounding is very important, and possessions and multiple possessions are very important, especially in the playoffs. You're gonna play in the 6'5" and under league. I don't understand, because you're not running, you're not getting out in space, you're not dominating in those other aspects where small ball really would dominate. And you get situations like the other night where Steven Adams is able to get second chance points in close games and get Chris Paul other opportunities, and it's not working. So if you came out and you won the series against a taller lineup and you won 4-1, and we can be like, oh man, we can see how the small ball can work. But you're tied 3-3 to a team that you should have beat, and you've given them confidence in it, and with a leader like Chris Paul. And I don't think this small ball will work. So when D'Antoni loses another Game 7 now, he's going to pop up and get another job. And that's another thing we'll talk about another day, how D'Antoni just seems to be
get
recycled day and out. And Ty Lue and other people got to sit on someone's bench. So that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, it's going to be it's an interesting conversation. It's going to be one that we'll see. I mean, going forward, I picked Denver. Like I said earlier in the show, I picked them for a sweep. It didn't happen. It was actually probably the best game in the playoffs. They won 4-3. If anyone didn't see it, it was a last-minute point grab, basically 80 to 79, I believe, or 78. 78. So look, if you haven't seen it, definitely get the highlights and watch the last 2 minutes of that fourth quarter. It was great entertainment, back and forth. One thing though with that game was I was surprised at how low scoring it was, which made me believe that obviously it's a young team, but playoffs basketball is a big thing, and these guys kind of shriveled a little bit when it came to that moment. It seemed more of, I'm going to play not to lose rather than I'm going to play to win. What were your thoughts on that game, Chris?
Well, this is what I'll tell you, just for those, I don't know, in the UK that's listening, if you haven't watched playoff basketball for a long period of time, usually the first two games are like feel-out games, especially if you're not familiar with each other's teams or whatnot. So then you usually get between games 3 to 7, who is the more dominant team, Who's the more dominant team, or are these teams even? So what you saw in this series, all the way leading up to possibly the last two minutes of Game 7, was two evenly matched teams. Obviously, 3-3 win, tie ball game going down the stretch. What you had was two evenly matched teams. So what usually happens when you have two evenly matched teams is then you get teams that just know each other. So I know all your actions, you know all my actions. So what you would tend to do with these particular kind of teams, it reminds me of the Knicks and the Heat back in the day. Granted, we did have lower scoring back then because they were more defensive minded, but these teams would always be starting the fourth quarter in the 60s because they just knew each other so well. They knew all their schemes. So it literally came, is my shot going to go in over your shot? Is my system on this play going to beat you? Are you going to... This is when the intangibles get into the game. Loose balls, paying attention, fouling, sending guys to the foul. So, because we know everything you're going to do. So that's what it looked like to me. Not the fact that they withered. I think they were tired. I think Murray and Mitchell just led their teams all the way throughout these 7 games, and these guys were exhausted. You also remember they're fighting social injustice. They had to take a break in the middle of this series to mentally get back on board. And even Jamal Murray in game 6, when they had to win, talked about his shoes, and he had George Floyd and Breonna Taylor on his shoes and talking about how they are giving him life. So you understand that basketball is not the only thing on these guys' mind, and that's what I think the low scoring came down to. Two teams that knew each other very, very well, battling it out for Game 7, and we got a classic. It was special.
Yeah, so no, I do agree with that into a certain degree that, you know, a lot of the players, social justice and a lot of things, situations have been at the forefront of their minds. I still personally think I was very surprised. Very rarely do you see in playoffs in the, you know, recent times a game, you know, of 80 and 79. It's not really that low scoring of a game. I do still think, look, they're a young team, so I do think some of them still couldn't necessarily. I think nerves did get to the best of them because, you know, and I think a lot of them were exhausted, like you said. You know, those 6 games prior were very back and forth. You know, very, very back and forth. Who's going to win? Someone outscoring this person outscoring this other person. Jamal Adams, and, you know, we had sort of 35 in the first game and so forth, and then 40 in the other game. So it was a real back and forth situation. So I think that plus the fact that they are a young team didn't help their causes with that game. It didn't start off great, but I think it finished off great. Which was great, fantastic for the viewers, or whoever in the UK was up to, you know, watch it all. But I guess you know, I do understand Denver and Utah aren't the sort of the household names that people are going to watch, but it was definitely a great game, so people definitely watched the highlights.
Definitely great basketball, and shout out to Denver for coming back from 3-1 deficit. I mean, that's usually very, very hard to do, coming back from being down 3 games and having to win 3 games in a row to win the series. That's usually the hardest thing to do. I believe only like 8 teams have done it in playoff history. So big shout out to them for accomplishing that feat in itself.
Yeah. So we're going to quickly move on to one other topic in the NBA, because we got a lot to talk about on this show, and it's with your team, the Heat. Now, it seems like Jimmy Butler had the Bucks' number. To be fair, in the other game, it looks it's going to be interesting. But one thing that I think, and I'll be very honest, obviously based on the regular season prior to the stopping of the season, the Bucks had looked good. They were the best defensive team. They looked great. Giannis is going to be the MVP, hopefully, and, you know, Giannis won Defensive Player of the Year. However, since the restart, since the bubble, the Bucks haven't been the same. Now we understand you got the whole Jacob Black situation, which is quite close to their backyards, and I can understand it being quite close to their mind. But even before the Jacob Black situation, they haven't been playing great. And I'm really concerned and really worried because, to me, it doesn't look like Giannis is a closer. And I think the Bucks are aware that Giannis isn't a closer. So, Chris, my question to you is, you know, do you think Giannis can carry this team to the finals? And if not, how do you think that will impact Giannis's, I don't want to say legacy because I don't want to be sort of over dramatic, but how do you think that will affect Giannis's mystique or appeal or his aura in the NBA?
All right, first question, to answer your first question, do I see if Giannis can lead this team to the finals? I do feel that Giannis is the type of player that can lead someone to the finals. What happens is that you have to be able to make the proper adjustments against great teams and great coaches like the Miami Heat and Eric Spoelstra and so on and so forth. For instance, in this first game, we saw that Miami put up a wall, made sure that he couldn't get to the rim. They made it very difficult when he got in the paint, and they made him shoot. It's literally coaching 101. Take away what they're good at, make them do what they're not good at, you know? And what happened is Giannis is so used to being able to dominate in so many other facets that when you get to these teams that know how to channel in on you and know what to do, it's hard to now make that adjustment. I think that's the next thing that we have to see with whether it's Mike Budenholzer or Giannis, is the adjustment after a good team has taken away your best strategy. Last year, Toronto was able to do the same thing. They put the wall up and they lost in 6. You understand what I'm saying? So it didn't even look like they were that good. Yes, they had Kawhi Leonard, but Toronto was a special team, but it was a team that we thought Milwaukee was going to be able to beat. You understand? So again, against the Miami Heat, if you have another great coaching staff that is going to channel in on the best player and say, you know what, Chris Middleton, you beat me. You know what, George Hill, you beat me. Pat Connaughton, you beat me. George Lopez, you beat me. We're not going to let Giannis beat us and dominate us and put us in foul trouble, because then the rest of the team gets off. So it behooves Miami also to get better and make sure, because you know Giannis is going to come in game 2. You know he's coming. And if Giannis presses too much, I believe, and Miami is able to withhold that pressure, it will make the Bucks even fall into a deeper hole, because I don't think Giannis trusts the system of trust my teammates and we will win. You understand what I'm saying? Because he had 9 assists in the last game and only 18 points. 9 assists is good, but you didn't win. So you passed the ball up when you said that you wanted to, but now he may feel that he needs to dominate. So he might say, I need to go for 35, you know? And depending on Miami's system, that could hurt the Bucks.
And so how do you think it's going to affect his
How it would affect
legacy?
his legacy if he doesn't get through? It would affect him greatly, because he would have to think deep down inside, can I do it by myself? Remember, Giannis is one of these guys that doesn't want to team up with another superstar. He doesn't like this whole friend superstar vibe that some of these NBA players in the culture has presented over the last couple of years.
Because he's African, Chris, mate. We do it hard, you know what I mean? We're stubborn, hard-headed people. We like to do it on our own. Don't necessarily work, but you know.
Hey, maybe that's it as a part of a culture, but he has to also understand that now, if this happens now, he's going to now lose in the second round of the playoffs, not the Eastern Conference Finals. And he would have to look around and be like, well, this is pretty much the same team that I did this with last year. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over with the same teams, maybe that's a little bit of insanity. So I do think, Giannis would either have to demand that they bring another superstar in, or he might start looking outside of Milwaukee and looking for clearer shores. You know, I don't know.
See, for me, I think, you know, my points is this. Obviously, you know, Giannis, they say Greek feet, but really he's Nigerian. You know, shout out to my Nigerian brother right there. But, look, with Giannis, I think it's a situation. I think he needs to realize even Jordan needed help, and he had Scottie Pippen, you know, to get him to the finish line and the promised line. LeBron has needed help. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie, even Steph Curry needed help with KD and Splash Brother. Let's not forget Klay Thompson. So, you know, Giannis does need a superstar, a transformative superstar to probably help him. Being maybe a bit out there, maybe Giannis isn't a true number one player. You know, maybe he is a Scottie Pippen AD type, and that you need a closer. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not necessarily saying I believe it, but I'm just saying when we point out there, maybe a train of thought would be if he loses the second round, it might become a situation like that. Because when Jordan was knocked out by the Celtics, when he was knocked out by the Pistons, people still saw he was a scorer. People still saw he can get buckets, and he didn't shy away in the playoffs. He never really had a bad individual game in the playoffs. Giannis has had bad individual games in the playoffs. So it's a question of, if you are that true number one, you need to just get the buckets all the time. So maybe he needs that, or he just needs to be surrounded with better shooters. Again, it is controversial, Chris. I acknowledge that.
I can't have you speak on your Nigerian brother like that. No.
No. He's my Nigerian brother, so I'll have his back. He is the MVP.
Dad,
he is one of the best players on the planet.
You don't know if Giannis is a clear number one on a team.
I was just putting it out there, Chris. I was putting it out there. I didn't say I agree. It's just there. What I'm saying is, if he loses in the second round again, there is going to be that question of, is he truly a number one player?
I don't know what to say. Is he truly a number one player if he loses again?
Chris, are you telling me that you don't think people in the media or people as fans will think that?
No! He's too great! Tracy McGrady never even made it out the first round of the playoffs. We never questioned if he was a number one player on his team. You know what I'm saying? Giannis is a number one player. I don't care if they don't make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? This guy is that great. You have to surround him with other greatness, yo. You can't have Chris Middleton be your second best player on a championship team. You can't, yo. It has to be a resounding superstar player to win in this game. The only player that I saw do it, honestly, is Kawhi Leonard last year. And that's fluke, yo. That's because he was also going up against teams with one superstar, or in the Philadelphia 76ers that didn't have any cohesion. So that's where it came in. Go ahead, Dan.
Chris, what I'm saying is, look, Giannis is a great player. Okay, I'm trying to explain this point a little bit so that people can listen. Don't start to hang me on my head. What I'm saying is, look, AD is a transformative player. He's a great player, once in a generation talent. So is Giannis. But AD is clearly a number 2 type player in terms of he's not a closer. He can get a team to the playoff, but can he win it on his own? No. So when I say is Giannis a number 1 player, I'm talking about how I classify number 1 player. I talk about a Jordan, a KD, even a LeBron. They will will their team to wins. Giannis can will his team to wins in the regular season, but in the playoffs, can he do that? Does he not shrink? Does he need maybe a closer or a go-getter? Again, I think Giannis is one of the top 5 players in the league. I'm not saying that my personal opinion is that he isn't a number 1. What I'm saying is, that's why the question was out there, is could it potentially affect the way we see him or view him? And I think there is a potential for that people might start to consider him as maybe not that number 1 guy, that go-to guy.
I guess under your definition of what number 1, the closer. So I could understand that, because sometimes the best player on your team doesn't always close the game in terms of like shots or baskets or whatnot. But we love that from our superstars. We want our superstars to have 50 points and hit the game-winning bucket. I know we're just selfish that way. But so I understand your point to a degree in that sense. Is he going to close the game? Is his skill sets great enough in terms of like making free throws, shooting the 3-pointer? Are those skill sets diminished enough that you can key in on him where he isn't the one that is the one closing games? So, okay, maybe I need to calm down a little bit, because because I was a little worried for a second, because one of the commentators did say that maybe one of the struggles that the Bucks have is that down the stretch, they don't know if they can go to Giannis because he will get fouled, and him being a 63% free throw shooter, more or less, doesn't help the team down the stretch, because now guys are just going to key in and foul him. And that's not a positive game plan to have, where you have to possibly negate your best player out of plays because you're nervous for him to get fouled and go to the foul line. And he also isn't great from shooting from outside. So you kind of have that one-trick pony-esque kind of vibe. Is that where you're going? To that point, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not gonna say it out of my mouth that he's not a number 1 option. And I
never said he wasn't. I'm just saying, I'm putting out there that there is people who might think that after a bounce off, because even with Jordan, as great as he was, he kept on losing. People were like, look, is Jordan really that great at the time? People forget, like, he was getting criticism and bad for losing he didn't get to the finals. He was losing second round, and then Scottie Pippen came, and after the Pistons, Bad Boys Pistons lost, it was like, okay, we're going to the gym, we're hamming, and then bang, he won. So I think Giannis maybe needs a better player around him. He needs more talent, but also at the same time, maybe you need to get, if you looked at like a Dame and Giannis, now that would be impressive, and I think that could go on to do some real power and some real force, and that's what I mean. Whereas Dame's that's all out and out number 1, but he needs more help, but Giannis, again, we'll see what happens, but it's always hypothetical.
I would say this to that point: if Giannis is going to rack up all his hardware, if he's going to rack up all his defensive player of the year, back-to-back MVPs, we presume that he'll be the MVP this year. You got to have the other hardware to go with it, like the one that you get at the end of the season. So you definitely have opened up now my mind in terms of thinking of Giannis in a different light. If he's obviously getting all this, you made the brain swirl a little bit. You made him turn a little bit.
Question 1 a Nigerian's logic to a British logic. I got like the brains of both right here mixing in my head. Don't question me, boy. Don't question me. You know, there is method to my madness now. There's no method to my picks, but there's method to my madness.
I would say that. Good one. If Giannis is getting his hardware and he's not winning, yes, your train of thought definitely will creep into people's heads. It's already creeped into mine. All right, good job.
All right, thank you very much. Now, guys, we are going to move to the NFL. And so, as we're talking about the NFL, one thing that we need to mention is Alvin Kamara. Now, the star running back for the Saints is reportedly not turning up for training, apparently a holdout. Alvin Kamara and his agent have said that that's not true. He's got epidural on his back. Whatever the case, it seems like the Saints have put out some stories out there to discredit Alvin Kamara's character and also maybe get him at a lower fee. Now, for me personally, looking at this whole story, I'm not necessarily a big fan of this because you've let go. Initially, you had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. You had that sort of 1-2 punch running back. You let Mark Ingram go, and he's done well for Baltimore. And you had Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara also catches the ball really well. So he's that kind of new age running back, which is a hybrid, which is you can catch the ball, you can also run it. Now, he's not a bell cow like a Christian McCaffrey or Saquon, but I think, he definitely deserves that, and particularly the way the running back market is, you can only get one real big contract. So you're looking to get, anywhere between that sort of 13 to 16 million mark. Now, Chris, what's your thought on the situation? Do you think Alvin Kamara should get paid by the Saints, or do you think the Saints are right to maybe, shop him around, particularly this late in the season?
Alvin Kamara is a game changer. Full stop. You gotta take care of your game changers, man. I don't know. Though these situations seem like something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. That makes players hold out. Players have done that before. They want more money and whatnot. But the whole disparaging of character, putting stuff out to devalue him, usually means that an organization is done with you, more or less. When they get to those steps, especially a talent like Alvin Kamara. Not sure if Alvin behind the scenes has been causing trouble or drama, but when you look at it, Alvin is on a team with players that's making more money than him. The running backs is making like total value more money than him. Ty Montgomery and stuff like that. Like that could be tough. Like for him, and especially when the market for running backs are always going down as your years go on. I would definitely want my money if I was Alvin Kamara. Now, how they're doing that behind the scenes and with the Saints, that's different. But me as a player of Alvin Kamara, I would want my money because I'm a game changer, just like McCaffrey, just like Le'Veon Bell, just like all these guys. I'm part of the reason why we've been going to the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs these last couple of years. So he needs to get paid, man. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's solid at picking up the block, even though he's small, and he breaks tackles with his size and stature. So I definitely think that he definitely needs to get paid, man. And I advocate for these guys getting their money, man. I advocate for these guys getting their money, and obviously in a respectful light. But Saints gotta tighten up if they want them.
Look, for me, when you see someone like Joe Mixon getting paid, 14 million, I think now, it's his contract. For me, it's just it screams that Alvin Kamara should get paid. He needs to get paid. Mark Ingram's got paid. I think also as well, he's now on 2.1 million for the next year. When you look at that as well, I think running backs, particularly how it's devalued, and this again speaks to volumes. I said with the CBA, I think LT came out, Daniel Thomason, and said, look, running back should initially get a 3-year contract and then go in there. And I kind of agree with him as well, particularly when you sort of get devalued and the position's devalued. You're not there to get a long-term contract. So for me, Alvin needs to think about that and what sort of the value that he wants to get out of it. Personally, for me, if I was the Saints, I would keep someone like him because it's been proven now for the last back-to-back seasons that Drew Brees wanes towards the end of the season. So in order to help Drew Brees, you want to maybe lean on your running game a little bit more. Focus on that. Alvin Kamara can also catch out of the backfield. He's a great catcher out the backfield as well. So for me, you want to kind of utilize a sort of a dual threat like that, like a Christian McCaffrey, even like a Saquon, but he's not the best catcher, even like a Zeke as well. So for me, it will be nice to see him get paid. He seems to do things the right way. There's not been a lot of news or trouble about him outside, even in college. So for me, I haven't heard much about him in terms of that aspect. So he seems to be a good character and a good fit. And if he wasn't, they probably would have let go of him instead of Mark Ingram when they did. So for me, let's look, it's a shame that's getting to this situation, particularly so late into the season. We've got to think about it. The season starts next week, which we're excited for, everyone, by the way. And check us out on our fancy specials as well. But that being said, it's one of those situations where it's a shame because you want to see good players get paid, and especially when players do things the right way. They're not a distraction. They're not a...
But listen to some of the names that are getting paid. They're getting paid more than him. Granted, I know he still on that rookie contract, I guess. That's coming, but he needs to still get paid. You got people like Rex Burkhead making more money than him. Sony Michel's, Rashad Penny, Mike Davis, Mike Breida. Like, these guys are like, Latavius Murray's on his team and he's making more. So imagine you're the number 1 running back and the number 2 and 3 running back are making more money than you annually for that season. That would bother the hell out of you.
Yeah, and you also got Taysom Hill, who's basically a bench warmer for $16 million.
So
it's a bit of a shock.
And then you got the dudes that we talk about in the category of him. Imagine walking into the room and your stats are comparable to the LaDavian Bells, Elliott and McCaffreys and David Johnsons, but you're not even close. McCaffrey, $16 million annually. Elliott, $15 million annually. Bell, $13. David Johnson, $13. Derrick Henry, $12. And he is, if not on par or better than those guys. And you're telling me this dude got to sit down and make $900,000? You're not even in the same club. Like, we can't even be in the same VIP section. You can't buy the same bottles I'm buying. You're like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't. We live in the same building, but we got different views. That's what these dudes are saying. But he's like, yo, I'm playing just as hard. Pay my mans, yo.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully he does get paid. Look, going so close into the season is not great. You want to get your future sorted, particularly the situation with Drew Brees and those comments, and we'll see if they'll come to sort of break the team going forward. We'll see how that affects them. Now you've got the whole Alvin Kamara, who's one of your signature pieces in the offense as well. So hopefully we'll see how it goes. Obviously, Sean Payne will make the offense tick regardless, but it'll be just nice to see people that you draft get paid and sort of stay as a Saints for life. I'm a really big believer of trying to keep people in your team as long as possible. I kind of like that whole that mystique of staying with your same squad or staying with your same team that drafted you to the rest of your career. And I know in the modern era that's very hard to do, but it'll be really nice to see that happen at least for a few players. So we'll give them that. Well, look, this is it's been great doing the show again. We're gonna obviously guys do it regularly. So our new times for the show will be Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So definitely check us out on those days in particular. Remember to leave your comments, your likes as well. Let us know what you think on some of these topics and in the things that we discussed. Also, let us know what you think about the whole Giannis situation. Do you actually agree with me? Can you see my logic? Do I need to have to give you guys a personal one-on-one phone call so that you can come to my side? We'll see. But yeah, guys, definitely leave your comments. Let's know what your thoughts are on that as well. That'd be great. Look, and also catch us out on the Hurry Up as well. We're going to sort of have an NFL special next week. A few more shows than usual. So definitely, catch us out. And we're going to do some more fancy tips on this show as well to sort of give you guys some help. Now, I'll probably be a lot better on the fantasy than wins. So we'll see where we go from there. But lastly, before we let you guys go, we just want to have a sort of a big tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who passed away earlier in the week. It was sort of unfortunate that he battled with cancer for 4 years, and sort of incredible the kind of films he brought to our attention, especially with cancer. Being on a film set is not easy. Sometimes they're very long days, 12 hours, and people that filmed with him didn't know. So that just shows a testimony to sort of his strength in being able to endure with the cancer, with the struggles, with the operations, and still bring, joy to millions of people. You now have the Black Panthers, the Captain America Civil War, the Avengers Endgame, Marshall, the Bloods. So, there's been there's stuff, 21 Bridges. So a lot of films have come out in that time period, and, all we can just say is sort of rest in peace, Wakanda forever. And we sort of appreciate the great work you've done in the time being as well.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my Sag brother, born 2 days after me, November 29th. So big shout out to him. When I found out that he was a Sag and he loved people and he worked hard and he liked the vibe and he liked to be outgoing, it made all the sense in the world because we Sages understand how we vibe and how we move, and we love people. And we love to have a good time. We love to make people have a good time. And Chad embodied that. So we want to say big shout out to him and what he's done, not only for the world, but for the culture. He's definitely made the culture feel a whole lot better about themselves, and that we could rep and we could have a superhero and we could be in these particular kind of movies. I was looking at him as like the next Denzel, for real. Like, he was definitely on that path and being in serious roles and taking it serious and also making people feel good. He was big on that. So big shout out to him, man. Wakanda forever.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the Denzel. He probably was, particularly when you think about Denzel paid for his tuition as well. He was probably on that trajectory of being the next Denzel. So right now we kind of need our new Denzel. So whoever wants to step up to that challenge, I implore people to step up to that.
Maybe it'll be Denzel's son. How was Tenet?
Denzel.
maybe it'll be Denzel's son. How was Tenet?
Tenet was great. It was absolutely great. But, when I look at him, he sounds like his dad. A part of me knows that he's not as good as his dad. And this isn't a shot at him. This is not a critique at him. It's just, you've got arguably the GOAT. It's like saying, anything. You've got the GOAT or one of the best people of all time doing this. And then you're never really going to get to that height. If Jordan's sons play basketball, they're never going to get to the height of Jordan. Bronny's never really going to get to the height of LeBron. It's just one of those situations where it's like, I look at you, I hear your father, but you're not your father. Yeah.
Maybe the next generation that didn't probably know his dad as much will probably see that. But those of us that appreciate Denzel's work and then see his son, we definitely do appreciate the path that his son is taking, but it's hard for us to,
Yeah. Because the thing is, if it was like if your dad retired, then that's one thing, but your dad is Denzel Washington. First of all, you should have had more Oscars, but Denzel, in my opinion, is top 5 actors of all time. And there aren't that many that are better than him. So, for me.
Hey, kudos for being in the game, though, man. Big shout out to him for being in Tenet and Denzel's son, and big shout out to him. And just gotta keep going. Tough that Chad was out, but you know how we do.
Yeah, and guys, whoever's listening, and when you listen to this, as a film fanatic, as a film lover, I do implore you guys to go to the cinemas, go and watch these films, go and invest money into this, because if we don't do this, it's going to be a situation where you see the same type of actors, you see the same type of films, the same type. We need to invest more into going to the cinema. We don't want it to be a lost art, because without the cinema, you don't get your Chadwick Boseman for Black Panthers, you don't get your Denzel Training Days, you don't get these films. So I really implore people to really go out. I know it's a sports show, but really go out when cinemas do open. Try and at least see a cinema once every 2 months or something, but just really try and invest into your local cinemas as well, because they are the lifeblood for these great films. So on that note, guys, peace out. Remember to like, subscribe our channel, leave comments, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
We out.
Thank you for listening to Extra Time. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at The Sportsheads for all things U.S. sports.